Hi, my name is Jerry Laboranti. I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania. I build traditional style hot rods. I've been working on old cars since I've been 18, and I always say it keeps me out of trouble. One of the things that I enjoy doing is I do custom louvering. I started doing it years ago when I was building a car project and I was trying to find someone who did louvers, and there wasn't very many. So the louvers that I produce here, there's two different styles. The first is the press style, which has a rounded edge, but the top is more of a squared shape, but it's a real traditional 50s style. The other style, the hand hammered, is more of a late 30s, early 40s style. It looks like almost the top of a clamshell. That also has a rounded edge. When you look at it, it's very, it's very 40s looking. So one afternoon I was visiting my friend Eli's shop, and I've known Eli for about 30 years. So he was working on this customer car. It was a 1932 Ford Roadster, and the customer wanted a real old style louver. And there was just no one around it that had a machine with a die that made that style. So what Eli did was he took some scrap metal and the edge of a 1940 Ford torque tube that he cut down, and he used the edge of that torque tube to make louver dies, an upper and a lower die, and then some scrap metal, and he built a fixture for hand hammering these louvers into metal. So he did it on the Roadster, and I just thought the shape was really, really cool. And when it came time to do louvers on the car that's behind me, my Roadster, I asked him if I could borrow the fixture, and he said, sure, give it a shot. And I did my trunk lid, and it came out really, really great. And I'm so proud that I brought him the trunk lid, and I wanted to show him. And I said, this is great, it came out really, really good. And then he saw my trunk lid, and then I went to hand him back the louvering fixture, and he said, just keep it. So the hand hammered ones, it's definitely more labor intensive. There's a lot more steps than my press louvers. So the first step, the metal has to be cleaned both sides, no paint, no body filler, just shiny, clean metal. The next step is I'll establish the center line, usually right down the middle of the part, and then for the hand hammered ones, sometimes I'll space them out a little bit larger, usually 4 3/4 inch to 5 inch center lines for each row. So once the center line is established with each row, I have to draw the cut line for each louver. And each cut line, it has to be 3 inches. So I'll do a center line for the row of louvers. I'll draw a 3-inch cut line, and then I'll do another layout which shows me where the beginning and end of each cut line is. So I have a center line, I have a 3-inch cut line, and then I have another layout for the start and finish of each cut line. So I bet you to do a trunk lid, I have about an hour's worth of layout time at least. And sometimes once it's done, if I don't like it, I'll take a lacquer thinner to the whole thing and I'll start over. But it has to be right because each one is cut by hand, which is a little different from the press one. So once the layout's completely done, I go in with a cutoff wheel and I cut that 3-inch line. So if I have a trunk lid that is 130 louvers, it's 130 cuts, one at a time, and they have to be perfectly straight. And you can't mess up, especially if you're working on someone's trunk lid. So after each 3-inch cut line is cut, I go back and I'll take a wire wheel to the cut line just to make sure there's no burrs, and then I'll bring the part over to my table that I use, and I'll have the louvering fixture underneath, and the part slides over and drops down onto the bottom portion of the fixture, and then the top part slides over the guide plate and rests on top of the sheet metal. And then once the die is right on top, I have a small sledge, and I hit it about 4 or 5 times, and the top part comes off. Have to slide the part out and then take a look at it. You might then, if I have to go a little bit more to get the louver to come out, it goes back on, the guide plate goes back on, hit it a couple more times, then everything comes off again. So it's a long process. It takes almost an entire morning and afternoon to do a trunk lid or a hood. And then once everything's done, once all the louvers are hit in, I have to go back and make sure that the height of each louver is the same as the one before it or after it. And so there are times where, like my trunk lid behind me, once I did that, I had to fix maybe 15 or 20 of them to make sure that they were the exact same height. So, which meant that, okay, I had to put it back over the fixture and hit this one a couple more times, but maybe this one only needed to be hit one more time. Once everything is good to go and I have all my adjustments made, I go back with a half-round file and just check the edges to make sure everything is nice and clean, there's no burrs, and then I'll wipe the entire part down front and back with some lacquer thinner. That cleans it up and also takes my layoff markings off of it.